In the What the Hail segment yesterday, you and I joined Lisa from Two Lees in a Pod, and we talked about what the hails. Anything you wanted to mention about our appearance, and then I got an article up that I wrote based on it that we'll talk about it. I don't appreciate the look that she gave me. I don't have a frowny face, and you don't smile, so I don't know what she was thinking about with that. But besides
Uh,
that, I
I think
spent most.
Lisa looks great in that picture, to tell you the truth.
I
So,
know. Yeah, she certainly thinks highly of herself in the mid region. But all right. So any thoughts from the appearance?
I think it was a good appearance because we actually talked a lot about what we talk about normally in the legal aspects of the case, but
Mhm,
with her audience that's not generally as attuned to the legal journalism and the issues involved in the courts.
mhm,
And there were a lot of questions that people had, and we answered a whole bunch of them.
mhm,
But the amount of disinformation that Janon puts out
mhm,
is the biggest problem here.
mhm,
And he's just he confuses his terms so poorly. This idea
mhm.
that I have a plea agreement with one of the 10 people I sued, or I have
Right.
this, that, and the other thing, or they're going to go to jail, or they're going to,
Mhm, right.
like the statements that he makes, they don't help anybody. But I was happy that we were there because we were able to talk through a lot of the points and explain what was going on and what's been going on. What's probably gonna happen in the future.
Uh, there's a few things that stuck out. She told me, or she told us, she told both of us, that three women have been granted a protective order against him. And then Michelle Preston had one temporarily that was removed. That would have been four. His two children have a no contact order against him. And he has been involved in a court case for at least a decade. That the, that together is not the description of a good person. That together is the description of a very bad person. And his fans, they propagate this, they prop him up, and they encourage all of the stuff that he's doing. Now he's threatening to sue his girlfriend's sister, his ex. I don't Guapo. I think they were either business partners or at least friends. He's threatening to sue that guy. And as you said, when that guy Robbie came on, he made an interesting point. He's like, how come he gets to sue everyone, and all he does is lie about me? And he claimed that Robbie had multiple felony convictions. He has one, that he's a drug addict. Robbie said he
For
is
what?
not.
For improperly trafficking rattlesnakes or something like that?
Right, and I was traffic. I compared it to the Freshman, the Marlon Brando feature where he spooks himself as the Godfather. He was trafficking in like exotic animals. It was a good movie. Um, and I and when Robbie made that point, I made the point that he has falsely claimed that you and I are under investigation. And almost certainly he has falsely claimed that he's got a lawsuit against 10 people, that one of the 10 has flipped. And I wanted to get this quote in because I got it after the broadcast. Dave from Milltown's Best, and they're all pinning it on him. Now he's got to defend himself. Also, wanted to make sure you were aware that I have not spoken with Jeremy or his lawyer about anything. I have zero intention of talking with them either. He, however, is now putting shit out into the world, making people think that I am in it. It is not only costing me subscribers, but membership on my channel. I think he knows that I have nothing but my YouTube channel and my viewers, and he wants to take that away from me. Does that sound like a good person? And Ray Bonecrusher, who has a YouTube channel, has been sued. Same thing. He's got to deny the rumor. You called it akin to like the prisoner's dilemma, where you have nothing on two guys. They're both suspects, and then you offer both of them a deal, and you say, if you take it, then we won't give you anything, but the other guy's going to go down. And you try to basically head fake two criminals, and you think he's doing something like that by claiming that there's someone out there hoping that someone else will step forward.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah,
so,
I think he's doing that, Mike. But and it's worse for everybody. The longer you're in the police station, And the part that we haven't talked about is the longer you're in the police station in that prisoner's dilemma, the more your reputation on the street suffers, and the more they think you're a rat. And so Ray Bonecrusher came out right away. Michael, make sure your audience knows I'm not a rat. I put it out there and say, Ray Bonecrusher's not a rat. He's the furthest thing from a rat.
So
Milltown's Best comes out. I'm not a rat. So now everybody's running around saying they're not rats because Jeremy's saying, oh, I got the rat. I got a rat. I got a rat. So that's the problem.
Now let's talk legally. And you and I both believe that he's just making this up. Is that a form of defamation if he claims that someone has made a deal with him when they haven't?
No, because he's in litigation now, and there's something called litigation privilege. So in litigation, you can basically say just about anything.
Really?
That becomes the issue. Yeah, litigation privilege is so odd that you have to really, the level of malice gets so high at that point when you're in litigation. So that's the thing. It's war. And so he's emboldened by the litigation. He's protected now, everything he says, because of litigation privilege. He was just trying to position himself in litigation.
That's interesting. And so he's got several lawsuits out there. The one where he claims that he's got a rat, if you will, that was recently filed. 10 defendants. The last time we spoke, none of them had responded. However, now I got several of them. I hope I get this one right. One of them did respond, and I wanted to read this because this thing is very interesting. Dave Helm, he's an attorney. He hired an attorney. You should never represent yourself. We have a fool as a client. And his attorney wrote a motion. You and I both read this. We think this is a really good motion. So when we get to the end, we'll make sure everyone knows who the lawyer is. But here we go. Defendant Dave Helm, pursuant to federal rules, blah, blah, blah. Introduction. Plaintiff has filed a defamation action against Helm and various other co-defendants revolving around plaintiff's social media presence on the media platform YouTube. The first 98 paragraphs of plaintiff's complaint outlines in detail the factual allegation against the various defendants and the tortious acts that he believes forms the basis for his claims against Helm, and additionally has commingled all defendants, including Helm, with counts 12 to 13 alleging the charges of civil conspiracy and aiding and abetting respectively. Count 6 of the plaintiff's complaint against Helms is labeled as, quote, defamation. However, within the count, in paragraph 135, plaintiff alleges that count 6 is in action for defamation against Helm for $520,000 for defamation per se. In count 12, plaintiff confusingly groups together all defendants within the allegation of civil conspiracy for, quote, the purpose of which was to commit torts of defamation, defamation per se, and tortious interference with advantageous business relationship. This is made even more confusing by the fact that this count is entirely void of any factual detail as to how all of these parties advanced said conspiracy. The same is true of count 13, which is also absent any detail as to how Helms aided and abetted defendant Preston and Cook, despite no factual allegations of their ever meeting. Given the confusing nature of the allegations against Helm, the commingling of allegations against all defendants, and inconsistency in the way Helm's allegedly defamatory conduct is described, Helm seeks a more definitive statement of plaintiff's claim. Plaintiff must provide a more definitive statement as to his claims against Helm. Given the commingling of allegations against Helm and all other defendants in count 12 and 13, and the inconsistency in the allegations within these counts and count 6, plaintiff should be required to provide a more definitive statement as to the claims he is asserting against Helm. Rule 12e provides that, quote, a party may move for a more definite statement of a pleading to which a responsive pleading is allowed, but which is so vague and ambiguous that the party cannot reasonably prepare a response. And then they cite the case. Quote, pleading containing definite statements permit a defendant to discern what a plaintiff is claiming, a defendant to frame a proper responsive pleading, and a court to manage its docket with greater ease. When a plaintiff, however, lumps defendants together without putting them on notice as to the claims made against each of them, the plaintiff runs afoul of pleading requirements of Rule 8, cites the case. Quote, under this rule, when a complaint alleges that multiple defendants are liable for multiple claims, courts must determine whether the complaint gives adequate notice to each defendant. In complaints with claims against multiple defendants, the factual allegations must provide each individual defendant with, quote, fair notice as to the nature of the claim against that defendant and the, quote, grounds for each claim. For this reason, when a plaintiff groups defendants together, a more definite statement may be required to provide appropriate notice. In Proshansky, this case he cited, the Middle District of Florida required a more definite statement when plaintiff alleged a negligence count against two elevators companies by pleading that they were responsible for the manufacture, installation, and maintenance of the elevator on the premises, and that they negligently manufactured, installed, and maintained the elevator, causing the plaintiff's injury. Applying the above rationale, the district court determined that the plaintiff was required to provide a more definite statement, separating the allegations as to each defendant in separate counts to provide them with fair notice of the allegations and claims before being required to answer the claims. And he cites another case, and requiring an amended pleading when the plaintiff failed to comply with Rule 8 because the complaint alleged violations by the, quote, defendant, lumping them together in each claim and failing to provide a factual basis to distinguish their conduct. And findings that allegations in which the defendants were lumped together despite their performance of different functions provided insufficient notice to the defendants and were confusing, thereby requiring separation of the claims into different counts for a clear presentation of the claims and issue. In this case, not only has the plaintiff intermingled and lumped together the allegations against all defendants in counts 12 and 13, but plaintiff's allegations within count 6 inconsistently alleges defamation and defamation per se against Helm. Despite giving 98 paragraphs worth of factual background on the chronology of events that form the basis of plaintiff's complaint against all defendant, no description is given as to Helm's alleged involvement in the civil conspiracy or aiding and abetting. The missing information and improper commingling make it impossible for Helm to respond to the complaint and mount a defense against the alleged tortious conduct. And he goes on, and this lawyer is Christopher Gage. I reached out to him. He didn't get back to me. Excellent motion. Is it a motion? Hold on. I want to make sure. Excellent. Yes. Excellent motion by Christopher Gage. To sum up, what Shochet wrote, Sprocket as we call him, wrote was so horrible and awful and disjointed, we can't respond because we don't know what you're alleging my client did. Help us help you. Make it more clear. When you say we were part of a conspiracy, how were we a part of a conspiracy? When you say we tortiously interfered with your client, how did we tortiously interfere with your client? Did we defame your client? Did we defame him per se? Something else? Make it clear. You're an attorney. You should know better. Do I have this right?
You do. The rule that this is under is Rule 8. And Rule 8 of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure talks about pleadings. And pleadings, as they talked about in that motion, are there to give notice to the parties. So when the plaintiff comes in and says, the defendants, they did all this terrible stuff to us, and we should be able to recover from them. We have legal claims. You have to, under Rule 8, spell out the claims. And so that motion basically says they didn't spell out anything. They have to give some particularity, you know, the who, what, when, where, why, and how of how Helms was involved in harming Jeremy Hales. And there are several different theories that they're using. One is defamation, but another is a conspiracy or aiding and abetting, which is concerted action liability. And to have a conspiracy, as we know well, you need an overt act in furtherance of the conspiracy, and an agreement to be part of the conspiracy. And they have not, in the pleadings, talked about how this conspiracy operates, how the people, the 10 defendants, agreed to be part of this conspiracy, or the overt acts that they've taken in furtherance of the conspiracy. So it's deficient for the concerted action claims off the bat, number one. Number two, the conspiracy that they're talking about is a conspiracy to defame, and the defamation fails on its own because you need to put out the actual words or phrases that were stated or published that were defamatory and false. And a lot of the statements that we saw in the complaint that we reviewed a few weeks ago are opinion. They're not susceptible to being defamatory. So show us where's the beef? What was said by who? And if this is a conspiracy to get together to defame these people, how did this conspiracy operate? And how was Helms involved? And it's an excellent motion. It really is the question that needs to be asked. And what's going to be the legal result of this, I think, is that the court is going to give Shochet a chance to amend. So he's going to.
Shochet won't be able to amend because he doesn't know how Helm was part of the conspiracy because he wasn't. That is my prediction. Now, we gave Gage a lot of credit, but hey, you know what? Lawyers are scummy all the time. Maybe he's just making it up. Maybe this guy is like legal mumbo jumbo trying to confuse the judge. So I have the complaint up. And as you can see, we've got Mr. Helm's name in there. So every time his name comes up, I skipped all the parts where they talk about who he is, where he lives. That doesn't matter. So here we go. In early 2024, Helm appeared on a YouTube live stream with Hales and seemed very friendly to Hales. Helm asked Hales to join him on a live stream to play Legos with him, which is something that Helm enjoys doing on his YouTube channel. Hales did not respond. Thereafter, Helm saw a photo of Hales playing Legos with Larry Foreman, who operates a YouTube channel with a current user subscription fan base of 497,000 people, the DUI guy. And as such is a competitor with Helm on YouTube. Helm was upset by this. They don't say how he was upset. Accordingly, Helm contacted Preston and Cook and offered his assistance as an attorney and as a YouTube member. As a result, Helm decided to join Preston and Cook's conspiracy to, quote, take down Hales. What do you think? There's the evidence right there. Helm contacted Preston and Cook and joined the conspiracy. Is that enough?
Wait a second. Conspiracy has to have an object, right? And an object of a criminal conspiracy must be a crime. The object of a civil conspiracy must be a tort or a civil wrong. What is the civil wrong? Taking down Jeremy Hales, a public figure, is not something that is actionable as a civil wrong. So what is the object of this conspiracy? I saw that question.
All right. Well, we're not done looking at Helm. I'm sure it's going to come up later. Helm contacted Matskin, that's Bruce Matskin, the attorney for Cook and Preston, and others to enlist them as conspirators to, quote, take down Hales, and labeling the malicious conspiracy to harm Hales as the What the Hales media ecosystem. Since April 2024, Helm has made YouTube videos. And I want to say it's not Helms. I sometimes say Helms, but that's erroneously. It's HELM on his YouTube channel, which are part of the anti-Hales media ecosystem and replete with further defamatory statements. And wait, here's one. The God of law is going to prove in this video why Jeremy Hales is twice as dumb, and that's not an opinion. He's going to prove it because fair use, anybody on YouTube can use my videos without permission. It falls under fair use. People can use my name, image, content, video, and intellectual property to comment to each other for news, and the list goes on and on and on. So he's saying that's defamatory because he said that's not an opinion, but calling someone twice as dumb is in fact an opinion, even if you say that's not an opinion.
Well, it's not so much that it's an opinion, it's a misstatement of the law by Jeremy Hales. He was confused because he's an imbecile. He was confused as to the doctrine of fair use and copyright, and he's confused about a great many things in the law. But it was pointed out, and Jeremy thinks that it's defamatory when his imbecility is proved to him by actual evidence.
All right, let's keep going. In these videos, Helm makes false statements about Mr. Hales that are presented in a way that imply clear factual accusation.
Implied.
He doesn't
imply. See that word, imply.
Right.
Imply,
but he doesn't
clear
say what the false statements are. Helm
it doesn't
also,
matter. It says they imply clear factual accusation. This thing should get thrown out for that sentence alone. It's not about implying accusations.
Hold
It's
on,
making
hold on.
make them.
We have, unfortunately, the smoking gun. Helm also invited Matskin to appear with him, and Matskin did so in 2024, thus displaying their relationship as joint tortfeasors and conspirators for all the world to see. So, what Sprocket is arguing is that because Bruce Matskin appeared with him on Helm's show, that makes them co-conspirators. What do you think of that argument?
You know what? I feel bad for everybody that's gone to see Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel and appeared on their shows, because they're all co-conspirators, I guess. It's probably the craziest argument I've ever heard in my life. That somebody, by virtue a media personality appears with another media personality, and they become co-conspirators with them. It's out of control.
I agree. Matskin, Helm, Weeks, Preston, and Hughes personally posted. Then they talk about a hate group, and that by them posting to this hate group, this, I guess, is a form of defamation. Moreover, comments from Matskin, Weeks, Preston, Hughes, Plummer, Cook, Raymond, Teschendorf, and Helm are posted in this hate group, including, without limitation, links to defamatory YouTube videos and pages about Helm, about Hales. If you link to a video that someone claims is defamatory, are you committing defamation? If you're like, hey, you guys should check out this video, is that defamation on your part?
No, it's not a word. It's not a phrase. It's not defamation. It's a link, and it's clear in court opinion that that's not itself defamatory.
All right, now we get to count 6, and Mr. Gage talked about count 6. So this is where he said they commingled. Hales is incorporated pairs. Anyway, this is an action for defamation against Helm for $520,000. Helm orally and in writing published false statements about Hales to third parties. The false statements were calculated to defame or diminish his reputation. The false statements were made with knowledge of their falsity. The false statements impute to Hales' behavior and character. And keep in mind, the one false statement that he claims was that the guy misread what is fair use. And then we're going to get to count 12 and 13 because he said he commingled those as well. Hales incorporated.
He gave one statement, Mike, right? One statement about fair use, no other statements.
Right. Correct. Hales incorporates paragraphs. Anyway, this is an action. All defendants agreed to intentionally and maliciously participate in a civil conspiracy among themselves and with other individuals, the purpose of which was to commit tortious defamation per se, and tortious interference with advantageous business relationship. And he goes on, this is where he's saying, you put me in with all of these guys, but you don't say how I'm a part of the conspiracy. And he's right. It appears the evidence of the conspiracy in this guy's complaint is that Helm invited Bruce Matskin onto his YouTube channel. What do you think of that?
Well, first and foremost, the words, the specific words and phrases that are defamatory in the four corners of that pleading are fair use. So he said that Jeremy Hales was a liar or an idiot because he didn't understand fair use. And that's itself, it's not capable of defamation. He was, it was an issue with the law, and he was just wrong about the law. So that's number one. Number two, the issue about the conspiracy to defame per se, and tortiously interfere. It's 100% right. What are the specifics of who, what, when, where, why, and how? Who came together? How did they do it? What was the actual agreement? How was the modes of participation in the agreement? What were the acts made in furtherance of? When did they occur? How did they occur? What was the coordination? None of that is there. Even generally, it's not there. So they need to spell that out. And until they do, this thing should be dismissed.
I agree. I'm going to make a prediction. The judge overseeing this will grant this motion, and Sprocket will not be able to amend his complaint. He's going to have to remove Helm. And then I think Helm may have action. And I think if that happens, you may have to consider sanctioning Mr. Sprocket because you filed a clearly frivolous lawsuit. Am I wrong?
I would counterclaim for anti-SLAPP, and I would counterclaim for and file motion for sanctions against Sprockets and against Jeremy Hales, both jointly and severally.
All right. So the last portion of our What the Hell segment, I don't know how much more I'm gonna talk about this guy, J Hip, but we were in negotiations for him to appear with us and for me to appear with him. And we had to have negotiations because that's just how it is. As those negotiations are ongoing, he then sends me this email. Hello. In a story I am working on, I was wondering if you were part of a well-financed smear campaign. I will need an answer very quickly before I go on with my story. Without such a quick response, the answer will be yes. I believe that is how journalism works in your world. And I gave him the link to the fundraiser, which pays for all the stories. And he said, I have waited long enough. The answer is yes. And I don't know what he's referring to. I've never been accused of sending an email and saying, you better respond in 5 minutes or I'm going to say you said yes. I've never done that. Furthermore, as I go through, I published his responses to me repeatedly every time. So I don't know where he's getting that from. But the larger point is there was a group of what I call Astroturfers who showed up on this Twitter feed or this Twitter post, and they have continued to Astroturf over and over again. And you and I muted them, and that didn't stop them. And so, as you can see, for the last month, on April 1st, this lady sent this tweet, and I had muted her about a month ago. That's relentless. It's a long time to send someone tweets when they're not responding. And this lady, Rosalind Duke, has done hate YouTubes on me along with J-Hip. And so I think that's more evidence that they really are astroturfers because they are, in effect, being told by someone to try to create engagement. And I believe the whole purpose, and there's Mary Lincoln, so we're going to talk about Mary in a second. But I think the whole purpose is to create engagement, meaning that we respond to them, they respond to us, and we go back. And then they go back to their YouTube channel and show everyone what they were able to get from us or from me or from you, whoever, on Twitter, and they think they're cute.
It's a pretty classic social media strategy, not just on Twitter, but on TikTok and Instagram, across platforms. I've encountered it not just with Hales, but with many others, including my battles with Dinesh and his cronies, McGivney and Bullyville and Credible Intel. They do the same thing. They've been on my Twitter feed and on my TikTok doing the same thing. I don't respond to them, or I respond to them, thanks for the traffic. And I give them the same response for the past 2 months. Yet they still come on trying to hang things out there to say, oh, yeah, try to get you to respond, to say that you're either an idiot or a hypocrite or a racist, or they try to create some type of ginned up argument to create content about you. That's what they do.
All right. So Mary Lincoln's, you saw her. She was trying to get me to respond on Twitter, saying mean things to me. When she noticed I wasn't responding, sent me in several emails that we read previously. Then she read this article and she was possessed to write to me in all caps. Mr. Michael Volpe, it's me, Mary Lincoln's. I've just got to get this off my chest because, wow, I'm kind of spinning in circles over this whole thing. I don't even know where to start, but I guess I'll just dive in. Bear with me, okay? I'm not an astro herder or whatever you call it when someone's pretending to be something they're not online. I had to look that word up, honestly, because I thought it had something to do with gardening or maybe those fake grass rugs people put on their porches. Nope. Apparently, it's about faking support for stuff, and I'm not doing that. Not one bit. It's just me, Mary, sitting here with my coffee. It's Folgers, nothing fancy, but it does the trick. Trying to figure out why you think I'm some kind of paid puppet. I'm not getting a penny from anyone. Zilch, zip, nada. My bank account's as dry as the leftover Easter ham my sister-in-law brought over last weekend. Speaking of which, that family dinner was a mess. My 15th grandson spilled gravy all over the dog, and now the poor thing smells like a walking roast. Anyway, back to the point. I'm not connected to your former friend, Megan Fox, or that Jeremy Hales guy. Never met him, never tweeted him, never even slid into their DMs. I have only watched them on YouTube stations. I wouldn't know them from Adam if they walked up and handed me $1. I reached out to you because I thought, hey, maybe I could help you. I saw your stuff online and I figured you might need a hand or at least someone to bounce ideas off of. I wasn't trying to stir up drama or anything. I'm not that kind of person. I'm the kind of person who spends 20 minutes looking for glasses only to realize they're on their head. True story. Happened yesterday. So imagine my shock when I'm scrolling through YouTube trying to find a video on how to get gravy out of my dog fur, and there's my correspondence with you, plastered up for the whole world to see. Rude, Mike, just rude. I mean, I get it. You've got your audience, but did you have to drag my little messages into the spotlight like that? I wasn't ready for my close-up. I'm not mad, I guess, just flustered. I've got enough going on with my cousin's daughter's baby shower coming up. She's having twins. Can you believe it? And now I'm over here worrying about whether people think I'm some kind of internet spy. I'm not. I'm just a regular gal who likes to chat online sometimes. Do you know the shortest war in history lasted 38 minutes? Random, I know, but I read that somewhere and it stuck with me. Anyway, I hope you'll think twice before tossing someone's words out there like that again. I was trying to be nice, not trying to get famous off your YouTube channel. Take care, Mike. This lady sent me like nasty tweets for about 2.5 weeks. And when that didn't work, started sending me emails. And now she's saying, I'm just trying to be nice. Look, I don't know who this is. I don't even know if this is a woman. This looks like a persona. If you're not being paid, Mary, you're a fool because someone would definitely pay you to do what they're doing. All right?
And she didn't talk about Chester. That's the best part when you start talking about Chester.
Her internet husband, Chester, she's got like 15 kids or 15 grandkids. I don't know how many grandkids. I think do you believe this is akin to an Astroturf campaign, that there are people?
Without question, this is textbook Astroturf. It's without question.
All right. I don't think we need to talk about Jay Hip and the rest of that crew anymore. All right.
Jay
Anything else you wanted to add on What the Hells?
Well, I think I'm going to end up going up to Otter Creek probably to do a cookout probably in the next little bit. We're going to coordinate that after the two Lee's appearance yesterday. I think we've got to cement that, and that'll be a fun day. And maybe we'll get some answers. I'll try to interview Jeremy Hales and interview George and the rest of them. So,
all right.